Hi guys, welcome to my presentation. Thank you for being here. And I want to start off by telling you all that my sources are cited in a separate document than this verbal presentation. I will also be submitting a slide of my visual cues as I give the presentation so I can keep myself on track. And I also will be submitting a literature prep review sheet that'll go along and just outline the broader ideas that I'm going to be talking about inside of this presentation today. So, my presentation is about how arts in the schools prepares us to be good, better people and talks about the impact of arts and empathy, communication, and graduation for students. So, the value of art education in schools is often underthought of, undervalued, and underfunded. So, when thinking about funding arts in the schools, one might think along the lines of teaching kids how to craft, how to draw, how to paint, how to make art. But if someone were to subscribe to a thought process like that, they would be severely limiting their field and understanding of how impactful arts can be for schools and for students in their personal development and their student development. So, arts that are well funded often lead to these three major findings. Engagement, retention, and graduation rates are all higher in schools with diverse and well funded arts programs. Arts help develop critical thinking skills by visual means, and art challenges students to find multiple solutions to roadblocked problems. So, fostering this problem solving habit, critical thinking, creative thinking habit that we would really want to see inside of our students so that they're able to compete in the world and cooperate with one another, collaborate with one another. Arts participation Arts participation in school prepares students to become well-rounded, active members of the community, and I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why. So, engagement rates. Alders 2016 is a great journal that tells us about the arts and the way that students engage with the arts in school and how that leads to broader participation in school. So, when in school, students are expected to learn math, history, science, the works. That's great because it helps them take that knowledge from school and apply it to their worldview. What we often forget is that students come into the school with their own worldview. So, with the arts, not only is it teaching these kids to look at the way the art is presented and how that relates to their life, they are in turn taking their life and applying that into their artwork. So, because of that unique way that a student would engage with the arts subject, they find that they are much more engaged in the classroom when creating their artwork because they're expressing their worldview, their thought process, and their point of view. Like creating posters, PowerPoint presentations, reading as a character in a play, a collage, a mural. All these ways in different subjects and in the art studio are ways that these students will engage with their worldview in their classrooms through arts. So retention rates are they're a big deal. So when students have projects to return to, plays to participate in, murals to finish, they're much more likely to come back to school and participate in school. A lot of the times, you are barred from entering extracurriculars or fun projects of clubs or of your art class or of what history class, of Spanish class, if you do not keep up good grades in your other courses. So, when we introduce, according to Sell and Tree in 2006, that journal, when we introduce the stakes of you get to express yourself through this artistic form, we often see that kids retain themselves inside of the school system because they have a reason to be there. They have a reason to get good grades in other courses because it allows them to finish their projects. They have reasons to keep coming into school because their projects are there. So this is something that was explored, and it keeps low interest students within the school system so that they stay and graduate. And if students graduate, they have a better chance at so many opportunities in life if they leave with their high school degree. So retention is a huge deal. And Bay 2020, that journal talks about how if the arts are spread across the curriculum, kids are more likely to engage in the subject matter at hand. So if a student is creating a project for their history project that is visual, they're more likely to make connections to those specific events if they create a visual board for them. It makes a more holistic understanding of the event. So students are more likely to graduate if they're feeling connected to the school's culture, if they're engaged in the culture of their classroom, whether that be through writing poetry, creating a visual piece to communicate an idea, maybe acting out a scene in a book. They're more likely to engage in that culture of the classroom, the culture that the teacher is setting up, and the projects at hand. So we find that they're committed to their peers, to their projects, and to their message, especially in the other subjects when they're allowed to artistically represent what they've learned and what their ideas are. Another key finding of the research that I've done is empathy. Now, everyone has empathy, but we could all use exercise strengthening it and some stretching so that it's a little more flexible, a little more able to travel. So Darden Bradshaw 2016 talks about strategies that teachers can use that would be really helpful for students and would foster that sense of empathy that they have. So promoting social justice is something that a lot of teenagers and particularly middle schoolers, my study, are interested in exploring and perpetrating. They use their creativity to connect their worldview to what they would like to change about it. So the visual arts allows them to explore that in a very safe environment. And they look at problems dynamically. There's discussion in class, there's viewpoint discussion, there's discussion on topics of interest, and everyone has their own perspective. And when we get together and talk about it respectfully, visually, we come up with different solutions that might solve a problem. Something that Kid A might have never considered because Kid A has not lived or walked in the shoes of Kid B. This Kid A now understands Kid B's perspective and has a better way of understanding Kid B's predicaments, problems, all of that. These help students stretch their empathy to places that they may not have taken it before. And this is very much laid out in that clearinghouse style journal that I cited. And Decide 2020 goes into why empathy is a two-way street. So why teachers need to set the groundwork for empathetic interactions within the classroom. And Decide talks about how we as teachers can find different ways to bring different cultures into the classroom so that we are teaching to a broader audience. So Decide challenges the colonial way and mode of teaching, asks teachers to bring in more culturally diverse work, and show respect to all kinds of artwork so that our students can, one, understand that all art is not more important than the other. They're all important. Two, understand that different cultures have different ways of looking at life and events. And three, it changes the teacher's optics so that they're able to connect with kids from other diverse backgrounds that the teacher might not be from. So this is creating a more empathetic situation where the teacher is more understanding of their students, more understanding of a broad range of topics, and more willing to teach it in a respectful manner so that kids from all walks of life get to experience all kinds of art and connect in different ways. Problem solving is another key finding that I was looking for in my journal articles. And critical thinking and problem solving are essential in our world today. If you are going to be successful, a lot of the times you are going to collaborate, and sometimes you have to stand out on your own. So, when we teach students when to collaborate, and how to promote their ideas, we find that the arts are very essential in promoting that kind of behavior. So, in Alder's 1999, students needed to know how to take different viewpoints to solve a problem. So, this is a huge part of social change and how we work together to promote that and change our environment. So, these creative thinking exercises were were presented to the students, and they had to solve them visually. So, students will use the arts to respond to social issues and find ways in how to communicate what they think should be done or how they feel about it, and in turn spread that idea to the rest of the class, the world, the community. These problem-solving seeking behaviors are very useful in collaboration and also extremely useful when the individual needs to present themselves in the theoretical and in the practical. So, in Taylor and Francis in 2018, they were exploring how students tackle the logistics, physical space, and choice of performance when putting on a show in a public setting inside of their high school. So, these students had to problem solve, creatively think, and collaboratively think to find a way to present a specific performance that could be performed in a short amount of time with the idea conveyed in an extremely short amount of time, while a busy high school hallway was being traveled by students during lunchtime so that they could put on a show that was well choreographed, well produced, well acted, while being in a very volatile, ever-changing setting. So with these critical thinking skills and problem-solving behaviors that the kids had learned inside of their production class, they were able to put on a production in a very challenging setting that conveyed the message that the production was trying to get at. So, these are all coming together to demonstrate how the arts need to be thoroughly introduced, funded, and endorsed in our schools. Students will come to school and stay in school if art is offered in a wide range because they feel connected to their work, they want to keep producing their work, and they want to share their thoughts and ideas in a very put together, formal way. They want to be able to relate to their world better, and this kind of drive leads to a lot of empathetic building where they're able to see what life would be like for someone who produced a painting, see what it sounds like to have a personal loss when performing a musical score, maybe put on a character that they've never been in a situation like before in a play so they can understand what it would be like to live as this person. So, and also develop critical thinking skills in how to show their work and what best conveys their ideas and messages. So, some major findings again: students connect to their studies much more when arts are incorporated in their courses. Studio time equals time engaged. So, we got to do that. 2, students will grow their empathy when they can see life from a point of view of others, and the arts are a great way to allow students to see life what it's like for somebody else. And students find creative ways to visually communicate their critical thinking ideas, and their dynamic problem solving skills are really fostered inside of the art studio because they're encouraged to try again until they get to something that is successful or successfully delivers a message. So, the teacher applications for this, in my personal opinion, are curriculums that push for art education will have higher graduation rates, they will have higher rates of engagement, and they are going to have higher rates of kids graduating because when they have these projects that need to get done that they're personally invested in, they're going to show up, they're going to try hard, they're going to succeed in the other classes so they get to do those artworks, and they're going to learn how to communicate. Art is challenging, and students have to use their smarts to come up with solutions, practical and visual alike, and students will be challenged in different ways to share their ideas in a non-judgmental environment that allows them to explore their options. And lastly, art allows students to try on other people's identity for a little bit, and that basically flexes their empathetic muscles so that they can see things from a point of view that they might never or never have experienced. This just gets them into a broader worldview, a broader lived experience, and broader tolerance. This will really create an adult who knows how to problem solve, who has obtained their high school degree, so more opportunities are presented to them, and really develops that empathy that we need in society to work with one another and stand out of the crowd as somebody who can develop well-rounded, well thought out ideas of their world and surrounding environments. So the literature gaps that I came across were little to no information on rural settings, and the journals mainly talked about that they worked in very urban settings. So nothing very rural in these journal articles that I found. Another thing was only one article talks about empathy growth directly. The rest of them kind of orbit around it, and they seem to imply empathetic development through the arts, but I only found one that directly addressed it. So that's a harder thing to find right now. I'm hoping we have more articles about that coming out soon. And another thing is these are all recorded in decently funded districts. So lower socioeconomic is a factor of some students inside of these studies, but not necessarily the school district itself. And another thing is there's very little to no data on race and ethnicity. So I don't know what race, what ethnicity, what part of the country, where in the United States of America these studies were taking place. So there's very little indication there about what that might look like for different ethnicities, different races. And I don't know what the race of the children were when conducting these studies. And that is my lit review for right now. Again, just to wrap it all up, I have the sources cited in a separate document. I have my PowerPoint uploaded so that you can kind of follow along. It's more of a visual indication to me to keep me on track, keep me in the moment. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Sorry it's terribly long, but I hope you have a great day, and thanks for watching. Bye.